Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore subjects that, well, hopefully challenge how we see things and help us navigate this world full of information. Today, we're diving into something we all experience, anxiety. But maybe not in the way you think. We're going to unpack a really profound philosophical text today. It kind of flips the script on conventional ideas about anxiety. We'll pull out the core insights for you. Yeah, our mission here is to show how this text presents anxiety not just as a simple feeling, like being nervous, but as this really complex, deep human condition. It's tied to possibility, self-understanding, even faith, according to the source. So get ready for some perhaps surprising perspectives. It might just change how you view this whole experience. Okay, so the source material we're digging into, it puts forward this pretty radical central idea right off the bat. It argues anxiety isn't just some surface level emotion that comes and goes. How does it, fundamentally redefine it?
Well, the core insight really is that anxiety isn't about something external. It's not something that just happens to a person. Instead, the author insists that the individual produces the anxiety themselves. It's internal. It's fundamental. In fact, the text even says, the more profoundly someone is in anxiety, the greater the person is, which, immediately challenges how we usually see it as just negative.
Wow, okay, so that's a huge takeaway right there. Anxiety isn't just happening to you, it's something you actively produce as part of being human.
That flips the script, yeah. The source even uses this interesting analogy, a Grimm's fairy tale, about a young man seeking adventure specifically to learn how to be anxious.
Exactly.
That's not about avoiding it. It seems like it's about confronting it, maybe even mastering it. What does that story tell us about understanding anxiety in the right way? Right. It highlights that learning to be anxious in the right way is actually considered learning the ultimate. It's that important. The text is very clear. If a human were just a beast or an angel, they couldn't be in anxiety. But because we're this synthesis, this mix of the finite and infinite body and spirit, we are the ones who uniquely experience it. It's presented as this deep, inherent part of being human, something the source suggests we really have to navigate properly to avoid, as it says, perishing or just becoming unhappier.
So it's not just a side effect of being human, it's fundamental, maybe even necessary, something we have to actively engage with. Okay, this next point then, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Anxiety is described as freedom's possibility. Sounds completely contradictory, doesn't it? Usually anxiety feels like the opposite of freedom, like a constraint. How does the source possibly connect those two things?
It is, yeah, it's deeply paradoxical, but also quite insightful when you unpack it. The text argues that anxiety consumes all finite ends, meaning it sort of burns away the appeal of specific limited goals, and it discovers all their deceptiveness. It shows how chasing those narrow things can mislead us. Now, it is described as a dreadful torment. The text even says it's potentially more potent than physical torture.
Wow.
But at the same time, it acts like a secret agent or even a mentor. It attacks us cunningly, the source says, right at our weakest moments. It reveals our potential for failure, or what the text might frame as sin.
So it's a painful guide, but still a guide.
Right.
Pushing us towards some deeper truth about ourselves.
Exactly. A painful internal mentor that strips away the superficial and makes us confront, uncomfortable truths.
That's a powerful idea. Okay, so if anxiety is really freedom's possibility, how do we actually learn from it? The text suggests possibility itself is the teacher. How is anxiety educated by possibility? Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's a really crucial distinction the text makes. It separates education by necessity. Things that just have to be, from education by possibility. Being educated by necessity, the text argues, doesn't lead to anxiety. But being educated by possibility, by all the things that could be, that definitely does. And it's through grappling with that possibility, that vastness, that an individual learns about what the source calls the magnitude of categories. Basically, the overwhelming scope of what could exist or happen.
Scope of what could be.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here, I think, is the idea that possibility is often heavier than actuality.
Heavier than reality? How so?
Well, you might think what's real, what's concrete is the heavy thing, right?
Yeah.
But the text argues the anticipation, the sheer weight of all the possible outcomes, good and bad, can generate enormous anxiety. But, and this is key, confronting those possibilities, wrestling with them, can also lead to profound self-discovery. It helps us see past what the source calls mendacious inventions of depravity, like false paths or illusions.
It's quite a thought, isn't it? That the weight of what might be can crush you more than what actually is. Makes you reconsider everyday worries.
Absolutely. We carry so much anxiety about futures that haven't happened, maybe never will.
So anxiety acts like this internal guide then. pushing us into a deep dive into self by forcing us to face possibilities. Can you give some examples from the text? How does it help someone discover all the finitudes, the limits, or even lead him where he wants to go?
Sure. The source suggests anxiety reveals these finitudes. It exposes the limits and maybe the illusions of our everyday finite world. It pushes the individual towards something deeper. It's described almost like this invisible force that leads him where he wants to go because it strips away the superficial stuff and forces a confrontation with deeper truths. And conversely, the text talks about the negative side. What happens if you abandon possibility? It uses the example of someone, say, like a lottery player who completely loses hope in any future win. They continue to experience loss, not just financially, but because they, quote, defrauded the possibility that wanted to teach them.
So by giving up on possibility, they actually become unhappier in reality. They miss the lesson.
Exactly. They lose hope in what could be, and that has real consequences.
So anxiety, while it feels awful, is this kind of challenging but necessary guide, relentlessly pushing us to engage with what could be, even if it's scary.
That's the picture it paints, yes. It describes anxiety as freedom itself, even the trump card of infinity. It's presented as utterly unavoidable for a human being. And paradoxically, it's this mentor that shows the way out of despair precisely by confronting us with the infinite nature of ourselves and our choices. It never lets the accused escape, as the text puts it, no matter how much you try to distract yourself.
This distinction the text makes later on between this deep anxiety and something like hypochondria seems really important then. It helps clarify what we're really talking about. Why does the source emphasize this difference?
It's a vital point, yeah. The source really wants to separate them. Hypochondria is described as, well, an insignificant form of anxiety. It's seen as self-absorbed, passive.
Passive, how so?
It's tied closely to fleeting physical sensations. It exists under the despotism of the moment, meaning it's kind of ruled by whatever immediate, often trivial physical feeling is happening right now. The text sees it as an imperfectly educated state. The person is anxious about, minor things, almost comical things sometimes. And strangely, the text notes, such a person might find relief when a truly significant fear appears. It's as if the big fear paradoxically grounds them, takes them out of the small stuff.
Interesting. So how is the true anxiety different then?
True anxiety, in contrast, is presented as active. It's transformative. It points to eternity, the text says. It's about a deeper, existential kind of self-understanding and engagement with the world. It's about confronting the infinite, not getting stuck in the finite and the momentary physical feeling. It demands, really, a profound engagement with your freedom and all those possibilities we talked about.
Okay, that distinction really clarifies things. It shows why it's so crucial not to kind of water down this profound existential anxiety, but confusing it with something like hypochondria. And then the text takes us even further into some really surprising territory. It connects anxiety, faith, and even demonic aspects. That sounds incredibly heavy.
Yeah.
How does the source link these things?
It does get very deep there, yes.
Yeah.
The source looks at examples of profound human suffering. It even references words attributed to Christ, like, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" No. These aren't seen just as expressions of despair in the text, but as statements profoundly relating to and expressing anxiety, the anxiety inherent in facing ultimate possibility, ultimate choices.
Wow, so connecting it to these ultimate moments of existence.
Exactly. And the text also draws this sharp contrast. It compares a Greek idea of immortality, where you might drink from Lethe, the river of forgetting, to achieve oblivion.
Right, to forget everything.
With Christianity's emphasis on recollection, but not just passive memory. Christian recollection here means purposefully remembering and transforming things, even things that seem ridiculous or trivial, transforming them into essential decisions by looking at them in the light of eternity. It's about being fully present to what's essential, not trying to escape or forget.
So Lethe, forgetting versus recollection,
Yeah.
actively engaging with meaning. That's key. The source seems to imply that if the soul isn't essentially present in life, if it avoids this recollection, that absence can lead to perdition, spiritual ruin. It sounds like a kind of spiritual accounting.
Precisely. It's framed in those terms. The text states, quite starkly. Men are not willing to think eternity earnestly, but are anxious about it, and anxiety can contrive 100 evasions, and this is precisely the demonic.
Wow.
So this reveals anxiety in this specific context, not just as a feeling, but as our active resistance, our refusal to confront the eternal, or what is truly essential about ourselves and our existence. It's the cunning way we try to avoid responsibility, evade the big questions, and in doing so, we create this self-imposed prison of the inessential, of evasion, that's termed the demonic here.
This has been a truly profound journey through this source material, a real deep dive. We've started seeing anxiety not just as a feeling, but as this deep existential condition linked to possibility, how we learn, even our spiritual direction. And so different from superficial fears or hypochondria, it really does make you rethink everything.
Yeah, and I think it leaves us with a really important question, doesn't it, for all of us? How can we start to reframe our own understanding of anxiety? Maybe not as something just to be, avoided or suppressed at all costs, but potentially as a guide, a catalyst even, for deeper self-understanding, for growth, for engaging more honestly with our real possibilities.
That really is the challenge, isn't it? And the source leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. It calls anxiety a magic picture, but only when the individual is not distant from what they fear. And Shiv, it's a powerful image, a magic picture. So maybe something for you to ponder. What fears or possibilities in your own life might be acting like that kind of magic picture right now, revealing something essential about yourself if you're willing to look closely.